Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television is sponsored by Nutrien. Nutrien, feeding the future.
Hello everyone and welcome to Perspective. This is a public affairs presentation of Florida Gateway College. I'm Mike McKee. My guests on the program are going to talk about law enforcement and corrections training. We have J.T. Williams and Prell Gwinn of the Law Enforcement Academy at our Olustee campus in Baker County. We'll talk to them about how you can get enrolled, and if you're interested in a law enforcement career, these are the folks to talk to you about it. We'll do that when we come back.
Today is the beginning of a bright new future for this country.
Won't live a life on my knees.
The voters are coming.
I am the Savior, you are the Savior.
Welcome back to Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television. My guests are Prell Gwinn, the coordinator of law enforcement and corrections programs at Florida Gateway College, and J.T. Williams is also a co-coordinator of programs at FGC's Law Enforcement Academy at our Olustee site. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's good to be here.
It's first time both of you have been on the program, so we want to give who, what, why, where, when, and how of the law enforcement and corrections programs. First of all, Olustee's a nice place. It used to be an old turpentine experimental station back in the 30s when they still got sap from pine trees, and now it's been converted into a facility. What will students see when they come out to talk with you at Olustee?
Okay, students will see a variety of red brick buildings, and that's what we like to describe when we give them directions to come out there. But they'll see our law enforcement program, our corrections program, we have a fire program, we have an EMS program. Mike?
So all of those are under one roof out at Olustee?
Correct.
So again, we wanted to talk about corrections first. That is the first, entry into the law enforcement field. So let's talk a little bit about corrections.
Okay. All right, on corrections, I'll give you a little backdrop on that, just a little quick fact. I actually went through the program in 2003 at the Olustee campus for my corrections group. But we offer a full-time basic corrections program, which is approximately 4 to 5 months in length. It's offered 3 to 4 times per year, and it basically, once you complete the program successfully, then you are eligible to gain employment anywhere in the state of Florida with that.
Okay, I know we got some video rolling here of actual training that goes on. You have to be a little bit physical.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. What you're seeing here is this is the first aid portion of the training that they're doing. And they do some classroom first aid, do some book work, and then we take them into the gym and do some moves and carries. And basically they have to demonstrate proficiency in all these areas.
Now they're putting them on blankets, obviously. If
this is called a blanket drag. Move. Yeah, if somebody was in a building and needed to get out and they couldn't move themselves. This is just some classroom footage from the classroom there with the instructor doing the lecture.
It's a different situation being inside of a prison, and so you're actually having to learn. What are some of the things you said? I saw up on the screen. It's inmate discipline. What is involved in corrections training?
Okay, so in corrections training, you're, as Coordinator Williams stated, you're also going to learn high liability topics such as first aid, firearms, defensive tactics. But in addition to that, you learn general topics, and that may be one of our topics is intake and release. And intake and release or inmate discipline is something that's needed by a correctional officer when they enter into that institution to affect the discipline that they need and to maintain and gain order into that institution.
JT, there are really regimented rules. You don't get to do whatever you want to do in a prison. I mean,
correct.
So talk a little bit about the differences of being in a confined area and
Well,
how-
I've actually never been a correctional officer, and that was one thing I wanted to correct. That you said the corrections is where you start in the program. You actually don't have to be a correctional officer. They're two separate programs, so you can do corrections or law enforcement. There is a transition program we can talk about in a little bit.
But oh yeah, we're going to talk about corrections to law enforcement because
Right.
once you get that basic, you can go move on.
Right.
So you're the expert in corrections since you. It's different. Prison system is different. They talk
Correct.
a little bit about that and how you have to know the rules.
Okay, you definitely have to know the rules if you're going to enforce rules. So one of the main things that correctional officers do in institutions is they enforce rules. They maintain and regulate order of inmates and their daily movement on the compound. So
Well, let's talk about there are plenty of jobs available, and that's part of. We have, I don't know, probably 10 prisons in our 5-county district, maybe more than that.
correct.
Talk about the job availabilities and the ability to advance. I know we have Florida Department of Corrections
Correct.
runs a lot of the prisons, but there's a couple private prisons in the system as well.
There are, and a couple of those private prisons, if you'll notice on video that you've seen, you would have seen those in white uniforms. And there's one that's located right down the street from our academy, and that would be the Lake City Correctional Facility, also known as Core Civic. So you have several privatized institutions in addition to the Florida Department of Corrections institutions. Right now, based on information we're receiving, the employment rate is at an all-time low. They are currently in need of correctional officers. We've had several in our program over the last few months, and they are actively seeking those for employment into corrections right now.
Well, and let's talk about the corrections. Say you want to go to the Florida Department of Corrections. It's a state job,
Right?
state benefits, state retirement system, state health. I mean, pretty good gig, and the pay's not that bad.
Right.
I mean,
some of them, depending on the facilities right now, actually have sign-on bonuses. So there's some benefit there too.
so how long is you said it was 9 months for the corrections training, or
It would be approximately 3 to 4 months.
3 to
in
4
length.
months? So if you're looking for an opportunity, an entry-level opportunity, is that how you sell the program to students sometimes? To say, you know what, if it's 3 months of your life, you're going to be 3 months older anyway, why not take the training?
Correct. Most of the people seeking employment that come to our academy that are interested in corrections are looking for a career. So how we sell it to them is in 3 to 4 short months, then yes, you can be eligible to have a career in something that you can later expound upon, because there are several, as you mentioned, Mike, there are several promotional opportunities that would be available later on in here. It just as any chain of command structure. You start as an officer, then you may be able to advance to a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain. So there are several opportunities available once you start in that career field of corrections.
And again, and both of you can probably attest to this, is that there are prisons all over the state of Florida, so you're not tied to this one area. If you wanted to move, say you wanted to move to Avon Park, I believe there's a prison in Avon Park, then you can do that. And if you got a family and your wife or your husband is a nurse and you want to go into corrections, you guys have really a great opportunity to move around and advance. And is that what it takes sometimes, being able to move around to take a promotion?
Sometimes it does. Right now, with the employment being at a low, though, I'm not going to guarantee this, but positions closer to home may be available for those that are willing to take that step and gain the training in corrections right now, just because there are so many openings there.
Now, the training is sometimes rigorous. We saw the people learning first aid. What are the other things? I mean, there are other trainings that you require. You learn techniques about if someone gets out of line, this is what. Talk
Correct.
a little bit about that, because I know
Right.
some people may be a little fearful that they're not going to learn quite what they need to to be able to do the job well.
Right. They do have high liability training. One of the sections is defensive tactics, and you're taught how to deal with someone if you have to, put hands on them, protect yourself, or control them. We teach escort positions and things like that. So you're given the tools that you need to deal with inmates.
Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can't carry a gun in the prison, correct?
That's correct.
So there's a different type of training that doesn't, that you're not using a weapon if something gets out of hand. So there's a different type of training.
Well, currently, basic corrections recruits are trained in the firearms topic, whereas they would not carry guns inside of the institution. They do have details that they go on, such as outside transport and special teams that may require them to use weapons.
Well, and that may be the people that you see mowing grass on the side or doing some menial labor with the inmates on a work crew.
Right, work crew.
We're talking about the corrections training program at Florida Gateway College, which is a 3-month deal. How often does that training happen?
That training happens in January. We hold one in May, we hold one in August, and then we hold the other one in December. So we may have 4 to 5 months of, may have 4 to 5 classes. We may offer 4 to 5 classes a year, depending on the demand.
So you almost have training going on all the time.
Correct.
So that you're not going to miss out. If you miss the January training, then you're going to be able to get the May training. So you can get your financial aid in order. How is financial aid a pretty good deal for students wanting to get in this program?
Unfortunately, in the basic corrections program, because of the hour requirements, it does not meet the total hour requirements, the clock hour requirements for financial aid. However, there are other programs out there that will assist with financing your tuition through basic corrections, and you can contact us at the academy if you have any questions on that.
And if there are students that are interested in going to school, there are probably prisons that would probably say, hey, we'll help you with tuition because we want you to be a corrections person at our facility.
There are many.
Correct.
I was talking about the sign-on bonuses, but there are many prisons right now, especially with the Florida Department of Corrections and the one Ms. Gwinn was talking about, Core Civic, that they will actually hire you, pay you while you're going through our program, and pay for the program. So that's a good deal.
We're talking to Prell Gwinn and JT Williams of the Corrections and Law Enforcement Academies here at Florida Gateway College. Again, we welcome the listeners to WQHL and WCJX to our program. We'll continue talking about law enforcement in our next segment when we come back. Don't go away.
There's a lot of fear in coming back to school. I'm a 40-year-old man that walked in there to get his high school diploma. It was very hard for me, but one of the teachers was Miss Araceli. She gave me direction. Every single time I had a question, she'll put down whatever she's doing and she'll sit there with you until you get it. 50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television. Prell Gwinn is a coordinator of law enforcement and corrections program, as is JT Williams of the Florida Gateway College Law Enforcement and Corrections Training here at the college. Again, welcome back to the program. Let's talk about law enforcement. Now, you're a big law enforcement guy. Talk about what's involved in that training. It's a little bit different, a little longer, right?
It is a little bit different. The clock hours are longer on the program. It's 770 for law enforcement, and corrections is
420.
420. So it is a little bit longer. Some of the programs, the curriculum, you're going to learn legal, excuse me, you're going to learn about the laws, the elements of the crimes, what you can arrest people for. You're going to do the physical, the defensive tactics, first aid, driving, quite a bit of different things.
Writing reports.
Writing
That's
reports.
important.
Report writing is a huge part of it, yes. And people don't realize that's a huge part of law enforcement, too.
Well, and again, JT, if you can, here we've got, again, this is going to be a physical job
Right.
because you've got to protect. And
This is part of the defensive tactics program right here. So as part of defensive tactics, you get sprayed with pepper spray, and you have to learn the effects of that on your body and how to fight through that. This is a scenario that's being incorporated with a class, basically to get them physically exhausted and still make them think how to make good decisions.
yeah, because you probably got a vest on, you've got
Correct.
a weapon on at your side, and you've got a
As
uniform.
part of the program, we issue them a duty belt, and they have we call it a blue gun. It's essentially a firearm that's made out of molded plastic, so they get used to having the firearm on them all
Well,
the
and
time.
you also have to you do live fire training as well, right?
Correct, yes. This is what this is the emergency driving. We set up several different courses. They have classroom time, and then we take them to the driving range and actually put them in the car and teach them several different emergency driving techniques.
Yeah,
That's the skid pad where we have them lose control. Also, as part of it, they have to do nighttime operations with the lights and sirens on, and it's really a lot of input, a lot of sensory input, and that's kind of what we're doing, is really putting them under as much stress as possible and seeing if they can perform.
well, and I'm sure you're giving them different scenarios as well with bad guys.
Absolutely.
And bad girls. So
We do at the end of the program. We've incorporated it now at the end of the program. We have a couple of weeks where we do just straight scenarios, traffic stop scenarios, building clearing scenarios, report writing scenarios, where they actually have to deal with instructors who are acting as bad guys and have to deal with them and put hands on people and show that they have a proficiency in dealing, being a law enforcement officer before we let them graduate this program.
well, I want to tell you, working with law enforcement over the years as a news reporter from Channel 20 years and years ago, the report writing was very interesting for us to look at, and there's a reason things have to be written a certain way, and that is so a state attorney can make a case, right?
Correct.
So this information is not just willy-nilly. It's there, and it's stating certain facts that you can take to trial.
Correct. What we call them is the elements of the crime. So in each Florida statute, criminal statute, there are pieces or elements of the crime. And when you write that report, you have to ensure that each element of that crime is in there in order for that person to be prosecuted for that crime.
Well, I'll tell you a secret. You probably know this already, but the state attorneys that I worked with, from a news standpoint, would always like the reports written by certain deputies and certain police officers, because they knew that they were going to dot all their I's and cross all their T's so they could make that case, and then they knew that they could take it to trial, and there would be no way that a defense attorney could ever say that this guy's not right, or what he did was not right, or what she did was not right.
Absolutely. And a lot of the agencies really place a premium on good report writing. I know the Gainesville Police Department, it is one of the utmost things that they look for, qualities that they look for. But in any law enforcement agency, it's very, very important that you're able to write a good report and communicate effectively what's going on.
You guys know this better than anybody. When you talk about a recession-proof job, a lot of people get laid off during a recession, and then they get hired back 3 or 4 months after whatever it is. Law enforcement, there's always going to be law enforcement, always going to be corrections. So you're pretty much guaranteed a job, and there's basically in law enforcement there's a police and deputy in every community. So
Yes, and of course recently there was some legislation passed as far as the schools and what the requirements were for the sheriffs to have law enforcement officers in every school, and so that opened many, many more doors for people to come into law enforcement.
what are some other things you mentioned? Defensive tactics. It's different because you have to know when to use deadly force.
Correct.
That's probably a class. You would think that if it's kind of a serious situation when you take another person's life, you better be right.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so we do teach them, you know, what Florida statutes say about when you can use deadly force, when you can use force at all. And then we take the classroom portion and we take them to the firearms range. And on the firearms range, we do some disciplines where you shoot, don't shoot, discretionary type shooting things. So we make them take that information they have in their head and actually apply it practically.
How much of what you teach them is instinctive? Because there's not a scenario for every situation you're going to be in the real world. So how much of it is taught to say, this is an instinct thing? You're going to. You're smiling.
I have a saying that I like to tell the students that here's white over here and here's black over here, and everywhere we deal with is all the gray in between. So oftentimes you and I could look at a situation and I might take some action and you might take a completely opposite action. It doesn't mean either one of us is right or either one of us is wrong. It's the way we see it and how we can articulate it in our report.
Well, and I don't mean to scare anybody, but when you're doing situations like that, you're put in a life and death situation, because I think when you use deadly force, it's either shoot or be shot.
Correct.
And that you see so much on the news about cops that have done the wrong thing. I guess until you are in that situation, you really don't know. I mean, would you tell the Joe Q public that they need to understand it's what a law enforcement person is going through?
Absolutely, and one of the sections that we have in the law enforcement training is officer survival, and we bring it to them for real. To knowing that, you know, it's not like it is on TV. It's not pretty. You're going to get blood on you. I mean, it is not pretty sometimes, and so they need to know the reality of it.
Now, and I don't think you probably have ever been asked this, but you don't just train deputies and police officers. You got training that can go to transfer to maybe highway patrol, or I mean, they've got some specialized training that they require, but.
Correct. We were
game
talking,
and fish.
Yes, and we were talking about that. So there's a Florida statute that tells what the minimum requirements are to be a law enforcement officer, and you meet those minimum requirements and then go through our training, then you can be employed at any law enforcement agency, like Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, Highway Patrol. Of course, they have their own like extra academy that you have to go to. For that, if you want to go to those, but there's some other opportunities out there besides just police department and sheriff's office.
Now, the training is about 9 months?
There are two programs. There's a daytime program that's a full-time program. Generally that's for younger people that don't have jobs and things like that. And then we have an evening program where it is 9 or 10 months there, where they go 5:30 to 10:30 at night. And that's generally for people who have a job during the day and have to do it in the evening.
Now, could this be the crossover folks too that are in corrections, maybe work a day job at a corrections facility, but want to do that crossover to go to the law enforcement?
Correct.
Yes.
That could also be the crossover, and that is what Coordinator Williams actually is one of his programs in the evening that lasts for 8 to 9 months. We have a shift-friendly crossover course, and he can expound on that a little bit.
When Prell talks about the shift friendly, the Florida Department of Corrections now works a schedule where they're working 12-hour days, and they'll work like a Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the next week it rotates. So we have our program now where it's set up to be friendly with their shift. So on their days off is when they go to class, and then their days they're working, they don't have to go to class. So it works real well with their shift.
And I understand you also have an advanced class. I think Richie, our director, shot some video at the academy about the advanced class, and this is weird.
This is a class, and Prell can talk about this.
Okay, this is a tactical rope rescue class that was held last year. Actually, it was actually a really popular class. It filled very quickly, and basically there, what you see is a guy that is rappelling down the side of our fire building.
So, and we do, I think kind of the phrase out here at the college is continuing workforce education. So that's what you're seeing here. So we do the basic programs with the basic corrections recruits and the basic law enforcement recruits, but we also do advanced training and career advancement training where we train current working law enforcement officers, so they can, and there's a method through the state of Florida when they take so many of these classes, they actually get a little extra money in their paycheck too. And they learn some things like advanced report writing is one that we do. Instructor techniques, we teach people how to be instructors so they can come and instruct in our program. And that's just an example of a couple of them. But there are some like that, what you see on the rope class, that's an advanced or a specialized training, and we do some of that too, and that's different. Each fiscal year we try to come up with some ideas.
Well, and again, the fact that we have a fire tower out there, there's the future of velocity is bright. They're looking at putting a driving pad out there.
Absolutely.
They're looking at putting an indoor firing range out there, and so everything will be self-contained. So I mean, things are looking great for what's going on. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation and give you all the information you need to contact these folks about a career in corrections or in law enforcement. We'll do that when we come back. Don't go away.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television and WQHL WCJX Radio. We appreciate the listeners for tuning in to this program. Prell Gwinn is Coordinator of Law Enforcement and Corrections at Florida Gateway College, as is J.T. Williams. We're talking about careers in law enforcement. It's not expensive. I mean, when you think about education at a college like ours, it's a bargain, really. And there's financial aid, I know, for law enforcement available, and I'm sure there's scholarships, and I'm sure if you know somebody in the sheriff's office, there are scholarships. I know the Jeff Davis scholarship is named after a deputy who lost his life, whose mom used to teach here back years ago. So all they got to do is call you up and say, hey, I'd like to come out and see what I can do, see what you can do for me.
Mm-hmm. And Ms. Gwinn can tell you the
Okay, so, all right, so if you would like to find out more information about our programs, the law enforcement basic corrections, then you can contact me at lucretia.gwinn@fgc.edu. We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. On our Facebook page, it's pretty long, so if you will type in your search bar, Public Safety Training Center, then we should pop right up there. And on that page, we post updates on our upcoming classes, and we also post different information on our advanced training classes. Anything that we're offering, we're posting on that.
Let me ask both of you, if I am interested, and when you see that ropes training and you see the fire tower, you're like, oh, that's out there? I didn't know that. Will you give a tour if anybody wants to come out and talk to you and maybe show them around where the training takes place and things like that?
Of course, we'll give a tour.
Absolutely.
Anytime, absolutely. All that I ask is you give me a call, set up an appointment.
Either call or email.
I just wanted to say we do try to have a strong social media presence. Ms. Gwynn's on top of it all the time, and I try to be too. We both kind of work on that, but we try to put things on there that shows people about the training. Here's what we're doing, and if you go on there, you'll see some of the pictures. You can see some more things that we do. And give you a more visual idea of what you'll be learning when you come out there.
And it's always good to have Jay around when he can fly his drone out there to give you those shots of the rope training. And I know we blew up a turkey out there in a hot fryer last year at Christmas time to talk about fire safety. But anyway, I appreciate you both coming on the program today, and we appreciate you watching us today on Florida Gateway College Television. Until next time, I'm Mike McKee. So long.